When Andre rescued an abandoned puppy, he never could have imagined that just a few months later, he would discover it wasn't a dog at all, and that keeping it would require him to completely change his life. Andrei Emosenko was loading his shopping bags into his car when something in the truck parked next to him caught his attention. In the back, there was a crate containing a small puppy, and the dog looked so sad and depressed that it instantly touched Andrei's heart. The puppy was incredibly beautiful, with the softest fur Andre had ever seen and stunning eyes he fell in love with immediately. When the truck's owner returned, Andre approached him to talk about the puppy and asked where it came from, but what the man said wasn't encouraging. He explained that the dog had been abandoned near his farm, and he and the farm workers had tried to chase it away, but it refused to leave. A major road ran alongside their farm, and people often dumped unwanted animals there. They couldn't keep them all, but they tried to find suitable homes for them. However, this poor little puppy had angered the farmer. It must have been hungry with no family to care for it, so it followed its nose in search of food and ended up inside the chicken coop. It destroyed a group of chickens and some others perished from the shock of the attack. The poor farmer didn't have many resources and the loss was devastating. He wanted to get rid of the puppy but couldn't bring himself to do it, so instead he decided to take it to the vet to ask if they could put it down cheaply. Tears welled up in Andrei's eyes, and he couldn't bear the thought of the puppy being killed just for trying to survive, so he offered to take it with him. The man agreed as long as he never saw the dog on his land again. Andre hugged the puppy tightly, and its little body relaxed completely. It must have been terrified and grateful that Andre had come just in time to save it. Now he just had to figure out what to do with the puppy. He hadn't planned on getting a dog at that point as he lived in an apartment without a yard, but he managed to clear enough space in his home for the puppy to play in. He named the dog Aquila, and an instant bond formed between them. They had so much fun together, but Andre also had to ensure Aquila got enough exercise or it might get frustrated and even a little destructive. Aquila loved stealing his owner's hats and shirts, though he was never gentle with them. He'd chew on the hats and lie down to sleep on the shirts. As active and playful as Aquila was, Andre expected training him and keeping him under control during walks would be difficult, but the puppy was surprisingly calm and obedient. That calmness vanished, however, when he saw other dogs. He'd lose his mind completely, wanting to play with every dog he met, even those who showed no interest. It was truly wonderful to watch, and people always complimented Andre on his puppy's behavior. Aquila was a special dog with many talents, but there was one small problem that was hard to handle. He never stopped growing. Over time he became enormous, turning into a shaggy black beast and growing into a beautiful adult dog. Most people were afraid of him, and their reactions made Andre wonder if he might have a hormonal imbalance causing him to grow this way. He tried to convince himself it was normal for a wolf-like dog, but he remained somewhat worried. He was scared of what he might hear from the vet, but he had to know what was going on with his closest friend. He hoped everything was fine and that the dog's size was natural, but that wasn't what the vet told him. As soon as the nurse took a quick look at the animal, she let out a scream of terror. They asked him to move to another room, convinced that Aquila might harm another animal or even the people around them. At this point, Aquila was only a few months old, but he was already bigger than most dogs of giant breeds. Andre didn't hide the fact that he'd had some doubts about Aquila not being exactly what he thought. He was convinced the puppy was the offspring of two purebred wolf dogs. But after months, he would discover that his sweet companion wasn't a dog at all. The vet laughed when he walked in and saw Aquila sitting behind Andre, his giant head resting on his shoulder. It was clear the massive dog loved his friend, but everything was about to change in the next few moments. The good news was that Aquila was in perfect health with no issues, but the other news was that he wasn't a dog. He was a wolf, specifically a fully black Canadian wolf with no dogs in his family tree. How and why he ended up abandoned near the farmer's land was a mystery. Perhaps his pack left him for some reason, or maybe someone tried to take a wolf pup home and realized their mistake halfway through. In either case, his path crossed with Andre, who had raised him thinking he was a cute puppy for months, and he was shocked by this revelation. Aquila showed no signs of aggression, and aside from preferring meat over kibble, Andre never suspected he wasn't some kind of dog. Despite his wild nature, he wouldn't be able to survive in the wild if Andre released him now. At the same time, he couldn't keep treating the wolf like a dog. The news wasn't entirely bad, but it would change their lives. The vet informed Andre that he needed to contact the local wildlife authority, and he wasn't sure what they would decide in this situation. Andre lived in the city in a residential neighborhood, a place entirely unsuitable for any wolf. Andre had to make some lifestyle changes if he wanted to keep his favorite friend with him. A few days later, a local wildlife inspector came to see him, and he would decide whether the wolf would be taken away or if Andre could keep him. Upon seeing them together, he couldn't deny the incredible bond they shared, so he decided he didn't want to ruin that if he could help them stay together. The first step was getting the wolf out of city limits. Having a wild animal like this in the city wasn't allowed. Andre sold his house, took all his savings, and bought a small piece of land more suitable for raising a wolf. The inspector had never encountered a situation like this before, so he was also doing his best to handle things. Most laws in Russia were against ordinary people keeping wild animals, and he explained that Andre would have to do everything he could to keep the wolf in his care. Most people would give up in this situation, but Andre loved that wolf and would do anything to keep him. Parting would sadden the wolf, who loved this human so much and couldn't live without him. The piece of land gave Akila plenty of opportunities to run and play, but he needed an enclosure to protect the people around him. Andre had to set everything up to standard because there was a major hurdle he had to overcome before he could relax. He needed to register as a wildlife rescue expert to keep the wild animal, and to do that, he had to prove he had everything the animal might need. A lot changed in a very short time, and Andre wanted to share it with all his friends and family via social media. He started with videos of his puppy and his transformation into a massive animal, and soon his story reached news channels. People were astonished when they found out Akila was a wolf, but it was the bond between the human and the animal that truly shocked everyone. It was amazing to see how attached they were to each other, with the wolf acting like a playful puppy, trying to nip at Andre's ears and clothes, but despite his large size and sharp fangs, he never hurt him. He was full of energy, but the moment Andre told him to stop, he obeyed. It was an astonishing sight for viewers. Unfortunately, the social media posts had some negative effects. His story spread widely in a short time, and everything turned into chaos from there. Some people thought he'd made a terrible mistake adopting an animal from a random farmer, while others wondered how he never suspected Akila might not be a dog. Some even believed he was harming the wolf by keeping him. But fortunately, most comments came from people who realized he was putting Akila's best interests first. These people wanted to see what the duo was up to day by day, and his follower count grew massively within a few weeks. But Andre didn't care about all that. He had to focus on preparing the place for inspection. He spent all his money making the enclosure ready for the wolf to sleep in and budgeted for the most important things. Sadly, the inspector didn't think the enclosure was suitable for the wolf, deeming that Akila needed much more space. Andre had planned to let him out all the time to walk and play, just as he always had, but that didn't matter to the inspector. He warned Andre that he had only a few weeks to make the changes, or they'd have to take Akila away. The inspector was sad because he saw the bond between them, but there was nothing he could do. All the animal's needs had to be met, or he couldn't license Andre's home as a sanctuary. In fact, he should have taken the wolf right away, but he was rooting for them and hoping they could pull it off. His warning was like a second chance, but Andre felt disheartened. He'd spent all his savings buying the property and preparing it for this moment. At that point, he was still working his day job in the city, but that would never be enough for all the repairs. He had to come to terms with the fact that he might have to say goodbye to Akila. He wanted to make it as easy as possible on the wolf, so he started reducing their interaction, but that only broke both their hearts. Akila became depressed because his friend no longer played with him, and Andre didn't know what to do. But in the meantime, something unbelievable happened that changed everything. One of his friends commented on a post, telling everyone about the struggles he was facing, and people rallied to help him. Everyone wanted to know where they could contribute, and soon Andre had enough money for all the repairs. He later found out the inspector had also chipped in for the cause. After the deadline passed, Andre was thrilled to announce the good news: he'd be able to keep his wolf for the rest of his life. The young man rejoiced, and his page's followers celebrated with him once more. Andre made sure to spend lots of time with Akila, rebuilding trust between them. It was wonderful that he could provide a home for Akila, but he didn't stop there. His relationship with the wolf inspired him to do more. There were still many other animals needing help, and Andre now had the right to give them a home, but he just needed the resources to do it. Seeing how much people wanted to help Aquila reinforced that many wanted to aid animals but didn't always have the skills or time to do so, though they were willing to support someone who could. So, Andre started making some products under Aquila's name and selling them online. People knew his natural talent with animals, so whenever they heard of a wolf needing help, he was the first person they called. An added bonus was that Aquila got to make friends and had playmates he could enjoy without hurting them. But he didn't stop at wolves. He decided to help any animal needing a sanctuary. The day he found that little puppy in the back of the man's truck was the day he found his true purpose. He's changed the lives of many animals so far and shows no signs of stopping. His big dream is to create large homes for all the animals under his care, starting with Aquila. He wants to give the wolf a chance to live as close to the wild as possible, yet warm and safe in a sanctuary. Until he can achieve that, he keeps doing his utmost to give the animals he cares for the love they deserve. Their lives may have changed drastically since living in the city when he thought Aquila was a dog, but the human and animal remain loyal to each other, and that's something that will never change. Would you have kept Aquila after discovering he was a wolf? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell so you'll get our videos as soon as they drop. See you in the next video.